Hello everyone, I'm day weather meteorologist Don Day with your Public Lands Council weekly weather update for this December 4th, 2021. It's being brought to you by Ag Risk Advisors. Go to agriskadvisors.com. Also being brought to you by WSR Insurance Services Incorporated. Well, as we take a look, folks, we've got some big changes coming. As we all know, here in the West, it has been an unseasonably warm and dry pattern really since mid-November. And then here we started early December with record temperatures in some areas of the Rockies and the High Plains and other parts of the West. But we're about ready to shift gears. As we talked about in last week's video, there were long-term trend changes we were seeing coming, and those are coming to fruition. Livestock producers need to be prepared for colder weather next week, and really, it looks like through the month of December into early January, more often than not, we've got a lot of winter coming. The long-range outlook, December into early January, looks occasionally cold and snowy for many parts of the West. Not everybody, but a lot of the West. A big departure, a 180-degree change from what we've been experiencing lately. If we take a look at rainfall and precipitation over the last week, it really hasn't done much. Now, the Pacific Northwest from British Columbia into the coastal areas of Washington, Oregon, the Panhandle of Idaho, and the mountains of western and southwest Montana, that funneling of Pacific moisture and those strong jet stream winds continues to make that area wet. But you can see there's a lot of real estate elsewhere in the West where there really hasn't been any precipitation at all over the past week. And if you look at the precipitation anomaly, you can just see that just that small area there and that small area there has had above average precipitation for last week with drier conditions elsewhere. But this is going to be changing as we head into the next week or two. If we were to just examine how the month of November went, when you look at temperature, anywhere you see orange or yellow, temperatures were above average for the month of November. Blue and green means below average, white means right at average. And you can see that we had a concentration of very cold conditions in Alaska, the Yukon, and the Northwest Territories, and then colder than normal conditions in the southeastern United States. But boy, other than the Central Valley of California, which was just close to average, you can see that the western High Plains, Rockies, Great Basin, very mild, very warm for November. However, I think we're going to see some of this cold come south in the coming weeks. The Drought Monitor hasn't changed much. Still, many areas under severe to extreme drought in the West, with some expansion of dryness into the Corn Belt and the Midwest over the last week. The changing maps, the maps that show change in the drought conditions, you can see a lot of these little yellow areas in Colorado and Wyoming, parts of North and South Dakota, have shown that drought conditions have deteriorated a little bit due to the dry weather over the past week. And if you look in the far west, really not much of a change. New Mexico, though, this is an area that I am really concerned about this winter heading into spring, is the southern Rockies. But you can see in the Pacific Northwest and the northern Rockies and the Great Basin, there hasn't been much of a change. But things are about ready to get a lot more interesting. I'm showing you the forecast map, showing you what we call the 500 millibar chart. This is for today, the 4th of December. West to east flow keeping mild air across the United States. However, the jet stream is really now digging in and wanting to go more southeast. This yellow arrow here is showing you where Arctic air is going to want to go as we go into the second half of the weekend and into next week. The Arctic air is finally going to have an opportunity to move south. And this is by next Saturday. Arctic air has access to the High Plains and Rockies and into many areas of the West. And what this is going to do is produce fronts. You got a front here, you've got another storm in front here, and these are all going to be about 2 or 3 to 4 days apart. And so the frequency of storms will get higher. The cold waves will be more frequent. We're going to have some ups and downs with temperature, but this is a big departure from where we've been lately. So livestock interests all across the West and the northern plains, especially the northern parts of the Rockies, the northern plains and the Pacific Northwest, the weather pattern is going to get a lot more busy. These are temperatures by Monday morning in Fahrenheit. Anywhere you see it gray here, temperatures are below zero. Purple means single digits. And you can see all the way down into New Mexico, we're in the 20s. Down into the teens in the central Rockies, sub-zero temperatures in North Dakota and northeastern areas of Montana. So we're starting to see finally the colder air able to come out of Canada now into the lower 48 states. This is by next weekend. The cold gets a bigger push south. Look at the single digits getting further south into the Great Basin and the central and southern Rockies. Sub-zero temperatures in the high mountain valleys of Colorado and Wyoming, eastern Montana, and the Dakotas. So we haven't seen temperatures like this all winter. And here we are starting to see them now. This is why livestock interests, you need to be prepared. Precipitation, boy, it looks a lot different now, doesn't it? This is the forecasted precipitation for the next week. You can see the blues and the oranges and the yellows and the greens here. The western United States, especially the mountains, but even into parts of California and the Great Basin, Arizona and New Mexico even, gonna start to see the mountain snow return, some snow on the plains as well. And here's the snowfall forecast for the next week. Snowfall penetrating further south in the United States and getting areas that haven't had snow in, well, quite a while. So changes are afoot, folks. Be prepared. Over the next week, you can see the cold air here. These are the average temperatures over the next 7 days. Notice the penetration further south. Now, even though there's some orange down here, some of this cold is going to make some forays further south, especially once we get past next week and into the long term. Our next update will be the 11th. Be ready for the changes, folks. We'll talk to you next week.